Welcome back, everyone. This video keeps getting longer and longer. Let me see if I can cut it down a bit. So I'm going to do a little bit of guidance on a CCU chain. I do want to, it's a small one. It's not a complete chain, but I'll link to a guide, Zi-Tek, which is a gentleman that I watch and follow that does these war bond kind of additions and war bond regularly tracking. That's more of his style. So I will cover, or I'll go ahead and link to his actual guide, and then you can take a look at his channel as well. If you want to follow that, he's been doing these war bonds for each of the days. I haven't really been watching the more recent stuff. I can later on, like I'll watch his today video later on if I have a chance. But generally speaking, I just want to be able to link over to someone that does this a little more passionately and more commonly than I do. And there's some nuances you need to be aware of. I'll cover some of those details, but it's not a full guide. Again, a lot of that's already been done. That horse has been beaten to death. So here we are looking, you can see here, you can make a jump from something like the Terrapin. My end goal is to cover how to get to the Eclipse because that's currently the CCU upgrade. So I thought it was a good opportunity, and we still have the Starlancer Max. So I can kind of show a few of the steps in the process while not really having to go or have previous footage. So here we are. If I was starting a CCU chain today, this is maybe what it would look like. I'll also cover a couple ways to kind of auto-generate these CCU chains through the CCU game, as well as a good way to cover it a little more in a manual process or old school process through a spreadsheet. So if you have Google Sheets is free, or you can use something like Excel. That being said, you can see here the Terrapin, you can make a jump to the Starlancer Max for $5. Now this has to be paid in non-store credit. So you do have to pay with this with current brand new money. You cannot, because all the war bonds are always like that, but it's only $5. So for me, if you look at the total that I'm having to pay in non-store credit, it's going to be a total of $20 in just this example today. And if you wanted to make these different jumps, different months throughout the year, you can build out a total CCU chain while spending subscription-based kind of money on the game and then using any kind of in-store credit to make the in-between jumps that you might want to make as well. So let's take a look at that. Additionally, another nuance I want to be noting is it's $5 in value today. This value in this ship, let's say I do make the jump from 220 to 250 here and I just stop at the max. If I were to melt the max at that point, it would only be worth $225 because for CIG, I've only spent $225. So they're not going to give me $250 for a ship that I've actually only spent $225. But don't get caught up in the sunk cost fallacy. I built a ship CCU chain for the Corsair, and it just didn't work out. I don't want to. I felt always forced to fly the Corsair, and I feel freed from that with the current nerf to it. So I don't use it as much anymore, and I didn't like flying it that much as it is. I like the ship, but I felt forced to fly, and I didn't like that feeling. So it's something that I went ahead and melted, and I now use that kind of store credit for things like this, where I'm looking for other ships. But in the meantime, you can use non-store credit to buy these war bonds. And again, if you do just a few of them a month or a few of them a year, it could be like a subscription fee instead of, obviously you're buying every war bond possible. That's your choice. It's your money. Then you might be spending more money. But if you're only buying selective ones to get towards targeted ships, you could be spending, again, subscription type fee costs in order to actually get where you want to go with ships that you actually want to get. And I would recommend obviously trying to get war bond ships, ones that you actually probably want to keep at the end of the day. But again, don't feel stuck with them. It still has value and you can still melt it for store credit. You just don't get access to any of these anymore. So I don't have the ability to make it again. I would need to, if I wanted to get the Corsair again, I would need to start fresh and work on a new CCU chain. And that's part of the fun of the game as it is anyways. That being said as well, this is $5 today because the Starlancer Max is currently on Warbond. It has been for some time. How the Eclipse is going to go by pretty quick here. It's only going to be up for about 24 hours. So it's probably about 48 actually at when it's all said and done, because I think the M2 might still be up. Let me check. Actually, it may not be up anymore. Oh, it's not. So the M2 is no longer. So yeah, so 24 hours with it. So you have 24 hours to decide if you want to get the Eclipse. You gotta keep that in mind because some of these war bonds are not very long. And what happens here is if I put this back in my buyback, I can't buy it back for $5. I would have to pay the full $30 difference between the two. So the war bonds are something you would actually need to keep in your hangar. So just be mindful of that with the buyback features. Those are some of the nuances. That being said, I want to go from, let's say, just the Terrapin here. I don't currently have the Terrapin. So you just, when you go to build the CC chain out, you click the all ships and you can pick for any of the ships here that you want to make a jump from. It just has to be a lower value of at least $5 from the target. Now, it's less than $5 in value here, but when you actually look at the Starlancer Max's actual, it's 225 is the war bond price here. So it has to be at least 220 or lower to make this jump. And you see here, I could do $5 to go the difference between 220 to the 225 war bond, but it's 250 in value. So I'm making a $30 jump in value with only paying $5, saving myself $25. Additionally, then I would need to make a jump from the Starlancer Max towards the Eclipse, and I want to then make it to the Mercury. Do note that because this is a standard edition, not a war bond, you could use store credit. So I could use the $10 store credit here to make this jump for $10, because again, it's $10 and $10 of store credit. Additionally, if I want to put this in my buyback, I can also sell this and put it in my buyback. I would say both of these two ships have established value. You don't want to pick ships that are concept ships. Those are hard to kind of play around with because you don't know what the end cost is going to be for the total price. And we'll take a look at that here in a second with the next jump. So, but these are two established priced ships. So when I make this jump with the store credit, this is easily something I can depend upon if I want to melt this, and then I can have it in my buyback if I want to buy it back a different day. Although you would have to buy it back with real money. Again, you wouldn't be able to use store credit unless you're using your store token, your one token for the time period, or two if you're concierge to buy those back. Additionally, here you can see going from the Mercury to the final target of the Eclipse, I'm having to spend $15, but it is giving me a jump for $40. So there's a little bit of value there. There's another $25 in savings, which isn't bad. Not as good as this first jump, but it's still a decent little jump. Additionally, you can see again, when I talked about the concept ships, a good example is the Triage. It's currently $250 to get the Triage, but when it comes out, it could be something like $275, it could be $270. So it's possible this time next year, this could be a better jump. Maybe this will be, again, $275. It'll be darn near nothing to go, well, let's see what the actual Eclipse cost is. Is it $275? Well, hang on. Doing it live. Let's take a look. I think it's 275. It is 275. So I would only hope it's 265 or 270. Maybe this will go up $20. If it's 270, this would be a good buy next year because, again, if it's 250 right now, but if the Triage comes out and it's 270, then making the jump between this and the Eclipse would then be, if again they do the Eclipse at 275, would be $5. So that would be a much better jump. I would then need to make a jump from the Starlancer Max up to the Apollo, or I can actually leave the Apollo out of it. Any rate, that's just kind of stuff you have to play around with. For now, making the jump here is fine. If you want to make a jump from the max of 250 to 270. So anyways, at the end of the day, it's just kind of playing around with these different numbers. For today, though, these are the currently available options. So going to the Starlancer Max from the Terrapin is a good jump. From the Starlancer Max to the Mercury, and then with store credit, and then the Mercury to the Eclipse with, again, you have to pay current money, non-store credit. And then you can see the CCU game here. The way this is tracked, this is not the same. We'll follow in my upgrade spreadsheet here, the one we're covering now. But this is an example of how you would do this in a CCU game. This does use your browser add-on with your browser to look at your hangar. So if you don't feel comfortable with that, then don't use the CCU game. But if you do feel comfortable with it, you just download the browser add-on. And then from there, you can use it to then look at your hangar, and then it'll determine what kind of CCU upgrade you might have. And then you can build out a chain. You can just select from your current hangar. You can select from all ships in the game, select what's available in the store, whatever you feel comfortable with. It'll ask you if you're looking for a ship that's not already yours. It'll ask you if you prefer LTI. Don't feel the need to do an LTI token. I like to use them. It's just something I feel comfortable with, but LTI tokens are not a necessity, and if you pledge for a ship, you always have available option to get that ship. You're not stuck with that ship, or you have that ship always added to your account. You just may not have to buy insurance in-game with insurance, in-game money with that insurance in order to receive it again. So just note that, again, if you've pledged for a ship, you always have access to it. You just may not have insurance currently on it. But the LTI, obviously, you always have insurance, but it's the most basic of insurance. That being said, again, I do pick up these LTI tokens on from time to time, and they usually themselves have a bit of a savings, and so they do kind of help start this, but this isn't always the best jump start. The Pulse last year was a pretty good one. And then you want to try to find a good alternative options in between with war bonds to continue to nickel and dime your way up as little, spending $5 or $10 here or there to make your way up to the top. It is harder to save more money at these lower ones. You can see they're only saving $10 here or there on these war bonds, but at the end of the day, each little dollar does add up and count, and it goes towards a larger saving of the ship. This is an example of one. This is not the one I'm going to be using, so I'm hoping to save more money than this. So the way that kind of can look in a spreadsheet is you want to have your the end target here, and then you want to go from another ship, and you just want to track the total cost you're having to spend. You can track the savings, the difference between that and the MSRP. This is just a calculation of what's the difference between the MSRP and the cost here, and that'll give you the savings. And then the difference also from what the MSRP of the other ship was. At the end of the day, you can see I'm tracking $50 in savings over the one example I showed you from the Terrapin with a cost of 30. So not bad. Again, there's more to be saved here. I'll be watching for potentially a Terrapin war bond or an Anvil day. There's a chance that could happen, and then you can continue to make more savings. Maybe I can make a jump from the Taurus to the Terrapin for a $15 savings for $5 possibly, or something of that nature. So I'll just be watching out, see if there's any kind of good savings that can be made to the Terrapin, and then so forth and so on. I'll be looking for ships below that to continue to try to make savings along the way to lower the total MSRP. But that's the way to kind of do it. That's kind of the down and dirty version of how you would go about that. Again, I'll have a link in the description for a more in-depth guide. Appreciate those that have taken time to watch the video. Let me know if you have questions down below in the comments, and I'll catch y'all next time. Peace.